All right, so I've got your game. There's only one little tiny minor thing that you've got wrong, and that is you've got this random number generator after the number's being used. So what ends up happening is the default value, which I'm guessing is 0, yeah, 0. When it goes through here, it's going to set animation to balloon 0, which is going to be blue, or actually it's going to fail. So it's going to pick the first one. It's going to pick the default one since there is no 0. And then it's going to randomly create a number between 1 and 8 and then store that number. So what ends up happening is your balloon, obviously, is always blue. So if you move this up 1, now it will actually generate the number before it tries to use it. And I see it's wrong here too, but I know it was working before, so somehow you must have accidentally moved that on the red one. So anyway, that'll fix your game. I'll just run it real quick here. And now it'll cycle through each of the colors. All right, 3, 2, 1, here goes. All right, and then it's actually working just fine. It's got the colors and everything else works fine. Now, the other thing I was gonna mention is you said you were doing the blue one because you wanted them mirrored, and I didn't see that from the game before, but obviously you've gone in and mirrored them because the balloon, the first balloon has it on the left, and then the blue one's got it on the right. So now there's actually an easier way to do this, but I guess I wouldn't mirror them. And the reason I wouldn't mirror them is because this has got a light source kind of shining up. Actually, if you use this one, it's shining up on the other side, so up on the left. And so you kind of get that effect of, hey, there's a light source over here. If you mirror that, it's going to be like you have two light sources, one on the left and the right. And actually will look a little bit weird. But I know what you mean by wanting to change those. So let me do two things. First, let me show you how you can actually mirror those just in code without creating two balloons. So I'm just going to go ahead and use balloon 2 since you've already got it selected here. So what you can do is, let's see, if you go balloon 2, set mirror, whoops, there's a set mirrored property. And this mirrored property allows you to go mirrored or unmirrored, or not mirrored, I guess. And that will actually just automatically flip it. So not mirrored is going to be whatever way it is. So in the blue one, the light's going to be coming from the right. So now the question is how do you do this as in here without creating two loops? And the answer is you want to actually create a sub-event. And this sub-event is going to say system compare value, or two values. And we're actually just going to use that same random function. So this is going to get a little bit tricky, but it's no different than what we were doing before. So we're going to say floor because we want to create, remember this from the first time we were screwing around, two numbers, 0 and 1. Actually, I think that's going to be inclusive. So I think we actually need to say random number between 0 and 2 so that it's actually 0 through 1.99999. The floor will take that down, so it'll be 0 or 1. But we want to actually check that. So we'll do random 0 to 2. So this will create a number between 1 or 2. And we only care 50% of the time. So we only care which it is. So we just care if it's 0 or it's 1. So it doesn't really matter. We can say 0 or we can say 1 here. Since we're just doing those two numbers, it won't matter. So now what's going to happen is we're going to say every 1 second, we're going to do all this work. I'm going to move this down. And normally it's going to be not mirrored, so I'm going to need to change this to mirrored. Whoops, but that was actually the default. I changed it. So now it's going to say every 1 second, create a balloon. And then it's going to say, oh, also sub-event, randomly pick a number between 0 and 1. If it's 0, set it to mirrored. Otherwise, it's going to be not mirrored, which is the normal state. So I didn't actually test this, but let's go ahead and give that a shot. And that's how you can actually just do it in code. So we should see half of them with the light on the left and half of them with the light on the right. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, so right, left, left. And you'll see it's actually pretty, even though it's a random function, but because we're only picking 0 or 1, you're probably going to see it oscillate back and forth the majority of the time. Now, if you want to change that up a little bit, there's all kinds of things you can do. But statistically, because it's just 50-50, it doesn't really matter. Half of them are going to be one way, half of them are going to be the other. So you're going to get things like this where you get 2 in a row, 2 in a row, 2 in a row. But But anyway, that's how you can actually do it in code. So that would still eliminate your need for a second balloon and all that additional logic that you put in. Your logic was correct. You did everything correct. You have the array, or actually I guess you created the array over here. So you created your color array. You populated that color array correctly. You were storing the value correctly here. The only problem that you had wrong was you had the order wrong. So anyway, that's how you can actually set that up to be mirrored instead. Now, another thing I thought, if you were just trying to get some different variations, you can actually adjust the size of these things. And it's actually really, really easy to do. So again, we'll just use balloon 2, but I would recommend just getting it down to 1 balloon. There's no real reason for you to have to duplicate all of that. So what you can do is if you want to have them just different sizes, you could say set width. And then you could pick a random number. I actually need to double check what, I gotta double check to see how big the width is. So the width is 160. So what we'll probably want to do is say, pick a random number between 150 and 170. Now, if you want, you could actually also change, so this is just going to make the width a little bit narrow. If you want, you could do the height as well. Balloon 2, set height. I don't know if you can set them both at the same time. Actually, you probably can. Let's see. Set scale. Actually, that's even a better idea. So why don't we do set scale? And this will allow you to define the size. So instead, this is actually, instead of using height and width, this is using a factor. So what you can do is, you'll see the note right there. It says 1 is the original size, 2 is double, 0.5 is half. So we don't want to be a huge range. So what we may want to do is say, pick a number between 0.9 and 1.1. This will actually work better than the height and width. So let me delete the width. All right, let's run that, and we should see some slight variations on our balloons. All right, play. And, well, that's actually really large. All right. They kind of look about the same. Now, those two are a little bit different. So we may want to tighten that up a little bit more. At 1.1 is still pretty big. But you can see there's a little bit variation on the size. So we could change this to, we just make that number even smaller, so 0.99 and then 1.0009. That looks about right. The other thing you could do is you could change the speed. So if you wanted to say balloon 2 set speed, make sure you use bullet speed, not animation speed. Random, you're currently using 400, so we could say between 350 and 450. And then that'll actually just change it. And the other thing you could do is you could make it so as it goes further into the game, it speeds up. And the easiest way to do that would be to just have an additional kind of counter, and then after so many counts through, it would just add that to the bullet speed. So for example, like right here, we're doing it every second. So what you could do is you could say every 15 seconds, add 1 to your to a bullet speed variable. I think we did this on your other game, the Power Pack game, as that went further through. So you could do the same thing here. So each 15 seconds or 20 seconds, it just increases the speed by 10 or 15 seconds, or I'm sorry, 10 or 15 pixels. And then you just use that variable instead. So let's see. So now they're actually moving in slightly different speeds, slightly different sizes. We still may have those a little bit too big. You may want to just go a little bit smaller. Just they seem to be dwarfing the screen. And we don't have a huge variation between the sizes. But anyway, they're a little bit different. So there you go. I think those were all of the questions you had. But that's how you can actually set that mirror up in a different way if you want. But like I said, I probably wouldn't, just because it gives you that weird effect. And you may not notice it, but it's something others will notice. Like, well, you've got your light coming from two different sides. I would probably change the size and the speed. And the other thing you could do is you could actually adjust that angle a little bit. I know we're using just that 2 70 to go straight vertical up. You could make that go a little bit left, a little bit right, maybe 5 degrees or 4 degrees, and just randomly pick a number between it. That way they would go on slightly different angles. So anyway, looking good. I guess let me know how it works out. Bye.